I recently lost my wife, and it has shown me how difficult it is to live alone. I feel very lonely, and as an orphan, I have never felt I needed someone else until I met her. I am scared of making new friends because I feel everyone leaves eventually. What do you fear the most? Story 1. I fear I will be a disappointment to my family and partner. I am currently working on my ratings to become a pilot. The private pilot license is harder for me than I anticipated. I am scared I will be stuck in this situation forever and never succeed. Story 2. Dementia. All my loved ones are mortal, and there are reasons for that. However, dementia is something that does not have to happen, yet it does. Story 3. Dying alone, unmourned, unmissed, unremembered, unremarked. I sit and think about this at night sometimes. When I do go, no one will know until the neighbors complain. I will go unclaimed and end up in a pauper's grave because no one is out there who cares what happens to me. Or maybe I end up incapacitated and stuck on the floor. No one ever comes here. So I will just starve to death, and the same scenario plays out. Story 4. I'm sorry to hear about your wife. That must be tough. I can't imagine how you're feeling, as I have not experienced anything happening to my wife or children. Take care, my friend, and don't let this cause you to shut yourself off, as that will only make things worse. Story 5. I have not truly lived. I am almost 28, and the last 10 years have felt like absolute nothingness. I am filled with regrets and terrified of things not changing. Story 6. I am still the same person I am today in a few years. I hate being stagnant. Give me hell or heaven, but never purgatory. Story 7. That must be rough. My fear is what you are experiencing, the fear of losing my children or my wife. Story 8. You nailed it. Losing my wife, best friend, and constant companion scares me. We sit for hours talking about our travels and enjoying every moment. Who would want to hear an old man talking about his travels? That is just one of many examples I could share. Story 9. Sorry for your loss. Look, it gets dark and lonely, but is that how your wife would have wanted you to live? Think about it. You can do it. Live your life. Story 10. Weirdly enough, despite not being particularly religious, I sort of swing back and forth. The concept of heaven scares me. I don't know if it's the implications of an eternity of worship or the fact that there's no end that makes the primal part of my brain react, but it freaks me out. Story 11. Losing my mom is difficult, especially if it were to happen before I could repair my relationships and social networks. During the times I have felt at my lowest, just knowing she was still in the world motivated me to hang on. I am uncertain how I would cope if that were to happen again without her. Story 12. A couple of connected things. People dear to me might fear me for various reasons. I worry that I will end up alone and that the few individuals I have in my life do not really want to be around me. Story 13. I fear many things. Poverty, homelessness, being paralyzed, my car breaking down permanently, and not having enough money to buy a new one. I worry about never landing a job because of my unconventional educational path and work history. Story 14. I am truly sorry, brother. I lost my mother this week. This was my greatest fear, and the heartbreak is unimaginable. Let us continue. She would want us to move forward. Story 15. Much like you, I lost my wife a few years ago. My biggest fear is that the peak of happiness and joy in my life resides in my past. My parents are aging considerably. I am an only child, and my cats are almost 17 years old. I often fear that there is only a path of loss and hurt ahead. I am also concerned about my ability to cope with more loss in my life. The first significant loss took so much from me that I am honestly unsure of what I have left. Story 16. Not a man, so I can't really answer that for you. However, dear original poster, living alone can be lonely. I don't have a support system, and I want you to know that you can do this. You can absolutely succeed. I moved far away and started over. Scary, but investing in yourself pays off. Story 17. My biggest fear is losing my fiancée. We are both overweight and want to lose weight. However, the fear of life without her is always in the back of my mind. I don't think I would have the will to enjoy life again if anything ever happened to her, and I promised myself I would never date again. Story 18. The thing I fear most in life right now is probably my daughter coming into contact with peanuts. I spent the night at the emergency room last Friday because other daycare parents do not care about the signs explaining that there is a child with a peanut allergy in the class. Story 19. I don't fear being alone. I am used to that. The only thing that really worries me is losing contact with my son as he gets older and hopefully starts his own family. I know it will happen, and there isn't much I can do about it, but it's going to be difficult. Story 20. I'm genuinely sorry for you. Stay strong, please. What I fear the most in life? That's a good question. The first thing that comes to mind is that I will never find love. I know it sounds cliché, but my 30s are closing in, and I have yet to find any woman who makes me feel like I'm in love with her, or even that she is in love with me. I have had a fair amount of experiences, but I wouldn't call any of them love. The second thing that comes to mind is falling in love with someone who doesn't love me or falling in love with the image someone presented when, in reality, that's not really them, and I just discover that after investing everything in a relationship that wasn't real. I know this must sound silly to you and that I should just enjoy life and let things happen, but what can I do when my mind drifts to these thoughts? I hope that, at the very least, this is amusing or even funny to you. Story 21. I am deeply sorry for your loss. It must be difficult to go through this. I wish you a lot of courage on your journey. My greatest fear is losing the people I love sincerely and dearly, and not having the blessing of a partner in life with whom I can feel safe, accepted, and loved. I would like to share a book you can explore whenever you are ready. The book is titled A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis. Story 22. I fear growing old and infirm. I don't want someone to have to care for me like a baby. I would rather pass away while my faculties are still intact. I have lived through watching many family members die an undignified death, which fills me with sorrow. Story 23. I feel the loss of those I love, betrayal, and the challenges I face. It took years of therapy to find some balance, though obsessive-compulsive disorder is still a struggle. Sometimes everything piles up, and I just want it to stop. I try to stay calm and take a moment to breathe, but the weight of everything going wrong makes me feel that life can be meaningless. It deeply worries me. If hard work, effort, and determination can fail, then what else is there? Story 24. I create an amazing life with my girlfriend. We get married, have a few children, and have everything we want and need, happiness. However, I fear losing them all and having everything taken away. It's a fear I've had since I was a child. Story 25. Being alone is certainly on my list. I lost my first wife to cancer and recently lost my oldest and dearest friend of 40 years to cancer. I watch the photos go by on my digital picture frame, and the number of people who are gone amazes me some days. Grandparents, parents, brothers, aunts, uncles, and old friends, even a grandchild. I am 18 months from retirement, and I'm mostly worried that by the time I finally get there, my health won't let me enjoy it. The old friend I lost worked hard and saved wisely all his life. Within months of retirement, he was diagnosed with metastatic prostate cancer and spent his last 4 years sick from cancer and cancer treatments. I'm pretty healthy other than chronic back pain, but some days I feel like I'm just waiting for the lightning bolt. Story 26. I do not want to die before my parents. I believe it would make them feel like they failed as parents, and I would feel like I failed them as a son. In my view, that is the worst thing I could do to them. Story 27. Getting divorced was the hardest thing I have ever experienced. In many scientific studies, it is ranked as the second worst thing to go through in life after losing a child. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Story 28. Losing my mom is a lot for me, but I love her. Even though it is hard, I'm blessed to have a mom who is only 20 years older than me. She had me when she was 19. Most people my age have parents in their 70s, and I can't imagine what it feels like to watch them get older. Story 29. After my ex and I broke up, she said she could see me as that weird uncle who is always single. I fear she was right. Story 30. Becoming physically incapable and being a burden on loved ones terrifies me. losing my independence and dignity, being trapped in my own failing body. That prospect is my worst nightmare as I get older. Story 31. I was a loner and never thought I needed anyone until I met her. I said yes, and we were together for almost 2 years. Experiencing love was wonderful, but the aftermath of the breakup was not. Her male friend influenced her decision, and she ended the relationship without giving a proper reason. It started with "you deserve better," and then she began saying hurtful things to me. For a whole year, I had to watch her happily spending time with her friend while I locked myself in my room and cried for months. It was a terrible yet valuable experience. Now, I'm wary of women who treat people they claim to love this way and those who have male friends. I stay away from them now. As I think about it, I realize I don't want to engage with women anymore. I try to speak with those who seem interested in me so that I won't lose trust and interest in women completely and end up alone in the future, if that makes sense. Story 32. Being dependent on others is a concern for me. I have been alone since I went to university, and I am comfortable with that. My fear is losing my self-sufficiency. Story 33. I understand that this is difficult for you. Just remember, people are generally friendlier and more open than you might think. They will appreciate you. Story 34. I have never experienced a bond or connection with another human before I die, such as with family, a girl I love, friends, or even strangers. Throughout my life, I have felt mentally alone. I struggle with communicating and showing love to others, which has prevented me from experiencing these meaningful relationships. Story 35. Sorry for your loss, brother. The death of those closest to me is my greatest fear, my wife and my 2 daughters. However, they are alive and your wife is not. I will focus my energy on sending a prayer to the universe for your healing from the profound grief and loneliness you must be experiencing right now. Stay strong, my brother. She would have wanted that for you. Honor her. Story 36. Continuing to move through life alone. I have watched all my friends, siblings, and even some cousins get married while I remain alone. I have achieved personal milestones, but there is no one to celebrate with. I long to experience the world and travel, yet I have no one to share those adventures with. Unfortunately, this fear was what I dreaded in my youth, and it has become my reality. Story 37. When my father got cancer, my mother was amazing. She took care of him and did everything for him. She almost did too much. It was like a fierce dog protecting her pups until the day he died. Later, my mother got cancer, and I took care of her just as she had taken care of my father. That's all unnecessary, she said. I replied, sorry, Mom, but you set the bar yourself. My mother survived. During these experiences, I couldn't help but wonder what happens to people who are alone in this situation. That's my biggest fear, dying alone. Story 38. Did you recently lose your wife, who passed away 13 years ago after 29 years of marriage? Or did you go fishing 20 years ago when you were 13 years old? Story 39. I'm the opposite of the original poster. I want to be alone. I enjoy it so much. People always think there is something wrong with you. I'm just tired of people. Story 40. Condolences first and foremost. To answer your question, I have put too much emphasis on my professional life and neglected the fun aspects, which means I have only focused on work throughout my life. Story 41. My worst fear came true. My wife left me. Now, my next worst fear is something happening to me while I have my child, and no one knowing right away. Story 42. I fear for my children's future and the world we are leaving them. Living alone gets easier. I have been alone since my divorce 17 years ago. Takes time. Story 43. Dementia and Alzheimer's disease involve literally losing my mind, personality, and memories as I get older. It feels like my worst nightmare. Family members and friends just watch me fade away. Story 44. I am much more comfortable with bad things happening to me than to my loved ones. Put all the burdens on me. My heart cannot take it if something happens to someone I love. Story 45. I believe I will meet the woman of my dreams, but I may not be the man of hers. Eventually, she may cheat on me, and I could discover that my children are not mine. This is my greatest fear, especially considering how common infidelity is and the fact that I have never been an attractive man to most women. It feels like a near certainty. Story 46. My wife and children need my help. It frightens me to think that I may not always be there for them when they need support. Story 47. I am currently trying to save my marriage. The following books have helped me so far: The Masculine in Relationship by Youngblood, The Way of the Superior Man by Data, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by Gray, and The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work by Gottman. Additionally, the Marriage Mastery channel has also been helpful. I am in the paid program and it is beneficial. Story 48. Having a stroke and being dependent on my wife for care is difficult, as she may not be the best caregiver. Story 49. Spiders. Loneliness takes some practice, but it's relaxing after you've adjusted. Not bad at all. Story 50. Being broke and homeless is difficult. I don't want to imagine what it's like to go day by day, slowly starving, wondering how and when I will get my next meal, all while trying to find shelter and stay warm. Story 51. I fear losing my daughter or her mother. I also worry about dying and leaving them to fend for themselves in this harsh world we live in. Story 52. I lost my father last year. I understand how hard it can be to lose someone you love the most. Everything I did was for him, to see him happy and proud of me. After my loss, I fell into a deep depression that nearly overwhelmed me. I share this to let you know that I am here for you. It's hard to forget, but don't stay alone. Try to engage in activities, meet new people, travel, and see life on its bright side. Don't isolate yourself, as it will only make you feel worse. Story 53. Losing my child. If anything ever happened to her, you would have to bury me with her. I would lose all reason for living and never be able to enjoy anything again. Story 54. I am a 21-year-old man. I was average in high school, but unfortunately, I couldn't pass mathematics and physical science. I couldn't qualify for medicine, which has always been my dream. Or should I say it was my dream? I completed my matric in 2020 and had good opportunities to upgrade my subjects and achieve good grades. I attempted this in 2021, but I faced a last-minute issue regarding venues. My writing venue was over 150 kilometers away, and I did not prepare transportation money because I thought I would be writing at schools in my area. In 2022, I tried applying for any course I could get into, but I was unsuccessful. In 2023, I applied again to improve my grades, but I failed mathematics and only slightly improved in physical science. This was far from my ideal target. I enrolled in college to study human resources, but it's not my passion, which made me unhappy. I tried to quit openly, but my mother and her sister expressed their disappointment and urged me not to quit. The reason I wanted to quit is that I applied for a government grant to fund my education, and I did not want to waste it on something I do not feel passionate about. So, I left college and did not inform anyone. Everyone thinks I am still attending. I have significant personal issues. I believe I may have mental health challenges because I contemplate giving up. I feel too embarrassed to be honest with my family and worry that I would be a burden to them. At the same time, my greatest fear is living a life of failure without achieving my dreams. Cannot allow that. I believe there is something more for me out there. My parents are not together, but I am close to both sides of the family, and I need to succeed for their sake. I want to provide for them and break generational curses. My paternal grandmother sometimes goes to neighbors for food. My mother's home was destroyed in a mysterious fire. We are the only ones living in a shack on our street. It feels like they have never had nice things or truly enjoyed life. They have been struggling for a long time. If I died without achieving my dreams, and if there is an afterlife, I think I would feel so much shame that I would want to escape that existence. This thought terrifies me. I have failed myself and everyone I love. Story 55. Dying without creating a single offspring to care about. I would choose a relationship with my children over a marriage. Story 56. I have a severe traumatic brain injury, and I forget most things. My worst fear is one day turning to my wife and not recognizing her. Story 57. Losing my mind due to Alzheimer's and dementia. Living alone has its advantages. I understand the sentiment. I need to accept that everything is constantly changing and take advantage of opportunities when they arise. Story 58. Maybe it's silly, but the first thing that comes to mind is falling into financial hardship. Not being able to provide for myself is a really scary thought. Story 59. I fear losing my wife and our 2-year-old the most. My wife is undergoing stage 4 cancer treatment, and it looked very bad at the beginning, but she just had surgery to remove all of the visible cancer. As of now, it seems they got it all, but we all know cancer can come back. I was scared of being alone and raising our son by myself, but I now know I could survive it if I had to. I just don't want to live with those fears. Story 60. I fear that I will die alone, never having known the feeling of someone being there, happy to see me. To be fair, I will probably die alone sooner or later, but that is just life sometimes, I guess. Story 61. Becoming terminally ill and not being there for my family, or having something terrible happen to my children or my wife, is a distressing thought that makes me feel depressed. Story 62. Much of what has been said here includes losing a partner, but for me, as I get older, I fear becoming a burden if I deteriorate due to dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and similar conditions. Story 63. Ending up in prison is second to dying without ever experiencing love. Death is much further down the list than I realized. Story 64. I empathize with you. It feels as though a part of you is missing, filled with a multitude of unanswered questions that may never be resolved. Story 65. That my life could become miserable again. I don't want my life to be bad again. Story 66. Dementia. Living without my mental faculties is the only thing that frightens me. My wife and I have specific instructions on how to handle that situation. Story 67. Financial stability is probably my biggest fear aside from leaving my son without his father. I grew up with everything I wanted, and I want to provide the same for my son. It scares me that I might not be able to do so because of the current state of the world. Story 68. Dementia, like the other individual mentioned, or really any mental illness, is creeping up on me. I'm still very young, and some of those late-life mental illnesses scare me greatly. I would much rather face cancer or another physical illness than a mental one. You can't escape your mind, which influences your perception of reality. Since people can't see what is happening in your brain, they are less inclined to understand. At least with a physical issue, you can see a wheelchair, ask what's wrong, and have a basic understanding. I've already lost a lot of family members at a young age, and I think I can deal with death relatively well, as long as I have people around me to support me. For context, my father died in my arms when I was 19, but I had a strong family and friend support unit that took care of me. Had I been alone during that time, I might have spiraled badly. A recent hypothetical I considered was if my future wife died in childbirth, making me lose not only my wife but our unborn child as well, leaving me with an empty house. I don't know if I'd be mentally able to handle that, especially if I were living away from my family and friends. I'm sorry for your loss. I hope you can constructively deal with your grief in a way that I could not. Keep your loved ones close. Don't find solace in an empty bottle. Sincerely, a random stranger. Story 69. Your situation is my biggest fear. What if I finally reach a point where I am happy in life and feel like I am here for a reason, and then something happens to me? Story 70. Never getting over alcoholism. Alone until it's over, feeling broker, hungrier, hating myself, and more addicted until the unconscious end. Story 71. I feel isolated because many of the gay individuals I connect with on dating sites tend to overlook me. It doesn't help that I live in a very conservative state. Story 72. In high school, I was very introverted. I was adopted by a more extroverted girl, and she was my best friend for the next 6 years. I took that kind of in-sync friendship for granted. I fear that I may never encounter another person like that again. Story 73. I have a huge fear of love. Growing up, I didn't experience love, so if I fall in love now, I fear I won't be able to handle losing it. Story 74. Being homeless. Even though my career allows me to buy and live in a much nicer home, I refuse to give in because my house is almost paid for and meets my family's needs. At the same time, I save and invest every extra bit I have reasonably in case I am ever unable to work to ensure that I can keep a roof over our heads. Story 75. It's just the thought that as I get older, so do my loved ones, or that one day she won't be here anymore. Story 76. Being forgotten. I have lived a mixed introverted life, often not by my own choice. I have been at the lowest point I thought possible, but what made me push through was knowing there was still work to be done. There is still good and honest work to be done to improve the lives of those I meet. I am afraid that if I die, I will be forgotten sooner rather than later. Story 77. My kids getting involved in porn or stripping is not acceptable. I used to talk to strippers. Some were very intelligent girls, while others had serious problems. Story 78. Getting drafted and dying in a distant conflict for people I do not know, in a country I do not care about, for resources we already possess at home, all at the taxpayer's expense. Story 79. It's a minor issue, but I'm worried that my crush will end up with another guy. He's seemingly straight, but he has mentioned that he wouldn't reject someone just because they're male. I've had too many crushes who are straight, but later come out as bisexual. It feels like I'm always ahead of the curve, and by the time they are open about their sexuality, we either no longer spend time together or the rejection has already happened. It's frustrating. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.